I'm gonna do the cloud this time. All right, so now we're recording after we've been talking for 20 minutes.
This is LT8.
Yep. Ian, Brittany, Connor, Abby, and Courtney.
Fantastic. My bad.
So we're talking about technology, right? So my husband's a bit of a computer. My husband's a techie. And so the two things that stood out to me are two things that he was educating me on a few weeks ago. The solid state drives and the multi-core processors. A solid state drive has less opportunity for failure because it stays put.
It doesn't have spinning. It doesn't have
Right.
spinning cylinders.
It doesn't have spinning parts, so it's less likely to break.
Yeah, no spinning platters.
And then the multi-core processor is like 3 computers in one. As an analogy, it's like 3 computers in one. So they can save space with the multi-core processors, like physical space, and then the solid state drives are less likely to break. So those are
and they're way faster, by the way. Solid state
and they're faster.
Crazy fast compared to traditional hard drives.
Because the way that it was explained to me, when something is spinning, then there's something that has to go pick all the little pieces out from the spinning thing.
That's right.
But when it doesn't spin, it's all in one place. So it just has to go to one place and get it, and it's done.
Yeah, they're smart. It's cool too because I mean, essentially what I think they said they were using were technology. What is that? Scale, operations of scale, or whatever you call that, where you just tap in at a really good time where technology is so great that you can really benefit and build an infrastructure that's going to last. Operations of scale, or whatever you call that, where you're going to be able to probably for a good while, quite a few years, not have to benefit or not have to spend all this extra overhead in additional servers just because, like, I work in IT, that's what I do. And the servers probably have a 5-year lifespan on average. And so, it's 2012 or whatever, you get one and you don't have to do anything until 2018, and then they'll go for probably about another 5 years. So it's kind of cool. You scale up like that, and then you let it sit and hum for a while. And then if you get a bunch of them, you can cluster them together, and it's amazing how you can create essentially like a supercomputer and stuff. So it's cool because that's from the technologies, they've been able to not even have to buy them. They just partner with all those people who already put them in and say, hey, let us use some of your computing power. You can use our product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the suggestions, though, I had was bringing the servers in-house. It would mean a lot as far as purchasing equipment and hiring people, but it would also help to reduce the possibility of information leaks, and it also helps keep control over the info being stored and maintained. It also could save time and effort on the part of the current Cloudflare employees who are providing the data center operators with detailed instructions. Talked about all those instructions and then how they had to call and then follow up and just get up and go do it yourself.
Yeah, that's true. That would probably bring up their costs quite a bit. But if they were having risk of someone saying, hey, you don't get my business because I don't feel like you're secure enough, you would probably have to show them something like that and be like, all right, we're having our operations in-house, and we have this type of security where we didn't actually have controls over that sort of thing previously.
And the other thing that stood out to me was that they said that they didn't purchase hardware until it was an absolute necessity. And I get running lean, it's smart, but it seemed to me that the management team was obsessive about, it said in there that it was obsessive about maximizing performance per dollar of infrastructure investment.
Yeah.
But they were obsessive to the point of driving people.
Yeah, that's true.
And
they were a little too stingy. They weren't necessarily staging themselves for scalability.
Right. They weren't, I wouldn't consider that bootstrapping. I would consider that like
Penny pinching.
yes. Yeah. So for you finance people, you have to spend money sometimes.
Nope.
Just when the numbers add up. That's it.
Well, yeah, but not like when it's an absolute necessity.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes the numbers, from a finance perspective, you're going to be like, we have to spend that kind of money. It's like, actually, if we want this, we do. If we want people not to quit, if we want, it's like you actually do.
Yeah, the quote started with, if we constantly stay near our capacity limits, then we'll always be learning, which is true. But if you constantly stay near your capacity limits, you're also putting so much pressure and stress on your employees to stay within that limit and don't spend money that they freeze. It just breaks their brains and they quit before they even get their stock options. I mean, who walks away from stock options? People who just can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Did we cover any of the cost flow formula, cash flow, the key elements that they have?
No, not yet.
Do we want to?
Their cash flow formula.
Yeah.
It as it was in what we read. I think it's okay. Like they've got. I think freemium works because of what they can buy up to. And did you guys watch when it was some news company that interviewed the top guy, and he was explaining how it worked, and he just said, we're profitable because of the people who pay, even though it's a free service. I mean, I liked how succinctly that was stated, and that's a sustainable model. I just feel like now that it's sustainable, now you need to like ramp up and figure out a way to still get more sales.
Yeah, they didn't have an immediate need for capital. We talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And that means that they figured out how to appropriately spend the money that they've raised. But there were a couple of questions that were in there, like, are the employees being competitively paid? It didn't sound like it. And then for how long are these growth rates sustainable, especially if you're not going to spend money on new hardware until you absolutely have to?
Yeah.
There's no room for growth in that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, I don't know how long ago. I mean, this is kind of a relatively recent case study. It was within the last 5 years, I think. But I believe that they are still. Yeah, it was published last year, and it was in 2012. So we're talking about like within the last 5 years or so. I don't think that they have changed that model. I still think they're running it all around the world in as many data centers that can participate in this DNS structure that they've created. It's like a DNS protective umbrella, and I think that one's probably going to continue to be how they really keep their margins super high. That's my guess. Like, I don't know. And obviously that was, I mean, if you think about 5 years ago and they're still around, they probably, overcome quite a few of these issues.
If they made it through 2008 and 2009, they're doing something right.
That's for sure. So the keeper start doing, I mean, did we do that, or the organizational implications? Is that the ones that we're working on now, or are those going to get parsed out of the conversations we've already had?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Well, you can see we talked about key elements,
Right.
But then there's rows for keeper start doing, organizational implications.
Yeah,
we want to go over those?
I think for the most part, we've kind of talked about it.
Okay.
Like all of them.
Remember, Connor is a master note taker.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, I think we're good to go up to the next part. Working as a group, take a closer look at Cloudflare's cash flow formula. Suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable? Use an actual spreadsheet and turn it in after this.
All right, finance people.
Oh,
Did any of you guys watch that video that was provided that just had like a basic model to use?
Yeah.
yeah, Brother
Mhm.
Crawford.
That
I
guy's
didn't-
funny.
Yeah, I didn't use it at this, but I mean, I was able to see how just converting a few.
Yeah,
Which is
I
future
did. I
profit.
essentially created a clone of it. If you guys are interested, I can send it out to the group just to have a place to start.
Yeah, I created a clone of what he did too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just as long as we've got one to kind of play with.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
There it is. Okay. All right, so this one right here. I don't need that. Right. Okay, so this is literally exactly copied over what he did in the video. And let me pull.
Does it have the calculations where if you change one variable, it affects the bottom line and the other gross margin percentages and stuff?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's got it all. I even did the little gross sake like he did.
Lovely.
That's back to exactly how he had it before. Let's see. Let's go over the question again. Sorry. So take a closer look at the cash flow formula. Suppose we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale. How long will it take to become profitable? So I don't even know where to start looking for all that information.
Well, that's an interesting question because if we're answering it the way that they're asking it, they're looking at time moving forward. It's interesting because, yeah, I mean, what this is just if you change this number, what's the profit? You know, it doesn't have anything about how long will it take unless we want to like create a spreadsheet where this is just part of it. And then it's like, okay, if time is progressing at this rate and we're adding this much cash, but we're burning through this much, I mean, I think that's probably what it's asking. If I'm not mistaken.
I'm sorry, guys. My brain completely shut down on this part.
No, mine did too. Like,
It's a weird question.
Yeah.
Well, I understand the question, though. It's a very relevant question in light of pretty much every single case study we read in this class because they want to know, almost as if it were from a capital cash flow perspective, how long until we need more money? That's kind of, you know, or do we need more money if we make changes and increase our revenue profitability? You know, that whole thing. So,
All right. So here in the case, it says there's 35 employees, 26 of them are engineers.
let me see if I can pull up because I might have I might actually hang on. So what I did when I broke it out, I actually took the basic one that the guy talked about, and then I actually did make some changes to it that might be maybe better. But in the case study, they talked about some particular fixed costs and some particular variable costs as well, like that were actually very specific. Maybe we don't have to have those or be that specific, but like the variable costs, server depreciation costs, hosting fees, and bandwidth expenses. And then the fixed costs were rent, other overhead, and essentially just gave total fixed. Like, I don't know, but in the model that we're supposed to create, it's telling us that if we want, we can figure out ways to save on the cash burn rate by changing variable costs or fixed costs, or is that not what they're asking for?
It looks like they're basically saying that if we have to hire more engineers in direct proportion to how we scale, how long will it take to become profitable? Don't those two things kind of cancel themselves out anyway?
Yeah, they do.
Well, yeah. So
Do you want to share your screen, Ian?
I can share my screen, and it's hard to answer that question, even with the model that we were given from brother, what's his name? Like, I'll share my screen real quick. One sec. Share screen. Just a sec. I forgot how to do that.
Oh, here, I think I have to give you control.
No, you don't. Just down at the bottom, there's a button that says share screen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There it is, the big green one.
Yeah, the big green one. I was going to say that, but then I decided I'd be nice.
No, I remember, Abby, I already did that to you once. I was like, Abby, green one. So, okay. Can you guys see this thing? So this is this is the current scale. This is how I did it. Are you guys able to see what I'm doing?
Yeah.
So like this is at scaling at current, and then I just pretty much copied it to say if we were gonna mess with that, what were some things we could change? So you got your fixed costs. And the funny thing is they just this is our fully burdened cost per employee, how many we have, the rent expense and stuff like that. It didn't really say what that was. But it did say these are our total fixed costs, which I thought was kind of weird because, this is already factoring that in.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we don't have to be like, oh, well, we have to know what rent was and put it in our other overhead, but we could. And then variable costs, server depreciation, hosting fees, and bandwidth expenses. The thing is, they gave us this amount, but they didn't really say how much each one was. So I just was playing with it in order to have it amount to the amount of variable costs I think that they said it was. But you start changing, conversion rates or whatever. Here's the thing that I had as a concern. It's like you have to be able to pay for the additional overhead somehow, right? I mean, you have to either increase your costs or you're somehow boost your subscriber rate that are paying, right? And I meant costs, I meant prices.
Yeah. Do you think it goes back to the question or to what I was talking about before, where a little bit different, but if we don't grow by 20% 2 years in a row, then we need to hire a sales and marketing executive? Maybe it's something along those lines. Like if we increase our conversion rate to 2%, we're going to need another engineer. And that new engineer is going to cost us another whatever that amount is.
Yeah.
So we just figure out the conversion rate percent or the revenue increase or the sales growth, the profit growth, and what level of profit growth means a new engineer.
Yeah, that would work. What I feel like we may be missing, unless it was provided in the case study, is how much cash do we actually have? Because if we know how much cash we have now, we know what our burn rate is roughly to be able to see how long it would take to run out, versus another model where we make some changes, we make some changes with our staffing, but then we also have to make some changes to conversions or stuff like that in order to justify the cost. Because how it is, every time, we're doing this right now in our company. I work for a small IT company, but we're creating a new service offering, and essentially we hired this guy, and in this area we're bootstrapping, and I said, okay guys, right now you're on the payroll here, but we're creating a product that you need to create generate a need for and go out and sell in order to make your position profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's essentially if we're looking at, in order to make it the way that the question is formed, I feel like you need to know your burn rate, you need to know how much cash you have, you need to know otherwise, if I didn't make any changes, why, how long would it take until I needed another cash infusion? That's just how I look at it.
Well, they did give us some numbers to that, but they said that Cloudflare's management did not disclose the company's financial statements. It's on page 6, right under the profit formula header. So it says, if 4% of 500,000 in customers, which you had on your thing, right, paid a monthly subscription fee, then the annual revenue would be in the range of 4.8 million. And then if you keep going down to the bottom, total expenses would be 7.8 million, implying a 3.05 million annual loss at current scale.
Yeah, and that is exactly what I had here. Like to the penny, that's exactly all the calcs that I put in according to that. So what we're looking at right now on this spreadsheet is that scenario.
Okay. But that's our burn rate, right?
Yeah, that's our burn rate. And so, yeah, it is. So, I mean, maybe just assuming that we don't know how much cash we have. We just know that that's our burn rate. And we know that there's a lack of profitability. And we might want to just maybe build an alternative option as we scale that just has this profit go to zero, which would be break even.
Right. Okay. I see what you got.
If that makes sense.
Yep. Okay.
No,
So we
that
need
makes
to increase
sense.
our conversion rate proportionate to the number of full-time employees that we're hiring. So if you take that up to 6% and go to 36 employees, what does that take that 3.05 to?
We're still, but that's a lot better than, just over 3 million.
So maybe it's 3%, change that to 7%.
So is it the conversion rate that we want to change, or is it the number of subscribers?
Well, I think we could do both. I think
Well,
maybe
your conversion rate,
both.
your conversion rate is going to change your number of subscribers.
Well, it is, but we're talking about free versus paid. So say that. So the overall amount of subscribers, the conversion rate of those subscribers is how many we have. So like.
Gotcha. That's the money that we have coming. That's where our revenue is coming from.
Yeah, so that's where this annual revenue for non and paid goes. So like, let's say that we did both though. Like we need to scale up on our subscriber count anyway. I don't know, like say 600,000 maybe, and 6%. I don't know. See, look at that. I mean, that's cool.
So 2% and 100,000 subscribers.
And we are profitable. We justified the expense of that one
engineer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If the job of that engineer, in my opinion, was to do sales and marketing in order to get 100,000 more subscribers and increase the conversion rate by 2%.
Well, that's not what an engineer is for. The engineer is for programming.
Yeah, these are full-time employees. It's like everybody essentially. So what I think they did was they just averaged the fully burdened cost for everybody.
Right. Yeah. The question is asking is specifically engineers, though, is what she's saying.
See, that's the thing. How can an engineer help get more subscribers and increase your conversion rate?
Right. So maybe the point is you have to hire 2 employees because you have to hire a sales and marketing executive.
I think the idea behind the question is it's not necessarily saying like this person they're hiring is going to cause more more customers and a higher conversion rate. It's more we're gonna get more employees and the conversion rate is gonna go up, and so because of that we need more engineers to handle.
What's the proportion between the two?
Right.
Yeah, and that's it right there. 100,000 subscribers, 2% conversion rate increase for every 1 employee.
Well, that it seems like it's a little.
It's skewed because it was so negative. So if you did 700,000 and 7% and 37 employees.
Wow, look at that. That's some serious profit.
It's skewed. The first one is going to be the biggest one.
The subscriber count?
No, the first The first
change.
employee. Yeah.
Yeah.
We only
Yeah.
had one employee, and we were putting all of the negative profit on one employee.
Right. Yeah. See, this is such a simplistic model, you guys. I mean, this is not this is such, I don't know. It's not the way to do it, in my opinion. I mean, it's
No, it's not.
fine for the question, I guess. But if I was really working over there at Cloudflare, I'd be like, all right, we need to have a better model.
It's fine for the concept, but it's not realistic.
It's
Right.
fine for this, I suppose. So what do you want to say here? Do you just want me to send this over to you so you have it, Connor?
Yeah, and then I can just turn it all in.
Sorry, change that to 38 instead of 36.
Yeah, and that put us in the black by a lot.
And so even like change it to 40.
See that you can staff up like crazy with small changes here.
Mm-hmm. So right
maybe,
there, we just added 5 employees. That's an entire. I work for a small transportation company. Our entire sales team, including the VP of sales, is 4 people. Well, 5 if you include me.
Yeah.
You should bump the conversion rate back down to 4. I just want to see.
See, that conversion rate is a big deal.
Yeah.
That's where all the money's coming from.
That's really interesting, though. Look at this. If we up our subscribers 200,000 and get a 1% conversion rate increase, look at that. It almost breaks even. That's really impressive. So, you know, scaling subscribers and conversions is really key here.
Well, because that's the only source of revenue they have.
Yeah.
Which is why they're talking about selling marketing information.
Yeah. What did they say? It was like 95% of their revenue was paid subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the thing about the conversion rate. That's the 5%. The other 5%, you know. So, or no, is that, how did we do that? I don't know. Yeah. So
just do 5.5%. That'll take you right up into the black.
Even that, right? So I guess they.
Yeah.
1.5%, 100,000 new subscribers on the free version, and you can hire 5 more employees.
Yeah.
200,000. Sorry.
You should just like off to the side or up above or something like that. Like have like a section where you multiply the amount of subscribers with conversion rate, just so you can see how many are paid subscribers. I'm just curious myself. I don't think you have to have that in.
No, but it's an interesting, yeah. So just a sec.
And he loves our tables.
He loves our tables.
That times that. 33,000.
Yeah, that's amazing. So hang on a sec.
So now bump it back down to 4. Let's see how many are. I guess I could probably just do it on my phone. But.
$4
and 500,000.
So if the 4% conversion rate didn't change and all we did was add 100,000 subscribers, that's 24,000, and that's not a lot of profit there. So it really has a lot to do with getting a larger conversion rate. So we change this from 4% to 5%. All of a sudden, we're looking a little bit better here. So what was that again? So what we could do, you guys, probably is a goal seek here and just say, what will it take to get profit to 0? And that's going to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Sounds good.
Now, was the question 1 engineer or 5 engineers? Because I like 5 engineers.
It was just direct proportion.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think that the higher number shows a better, because just hiring 1, remember, it took a whole bunch to get into the black. But once we got into the black, we could hire almost as many as we wanted, and it didn't matter.
Yeah. So I'm just curious here. I just want to see what this difference would be here. You know, so it's you add 10,000 paid subscribers from where we were at, essentially, is how I'm just looking at, the changes here.
Right.
So, do you want to try goal seek just to get the profit to 0 and say this?
Sure. Give it a shot.
Do we want to leave it at 40 employees?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, which variable do we want to change? We could say how many employees. Do we want that to be the variable that we change? Because that's what we could do is say.
Well, we need to change both.
Yeah. Well, the thing
Answer
is,
the
you can't just go out and get 38.2 employees either. You got to get, you know what I mean? So maybe we should say we want 40, and what would these numbers need to be for a goal seek? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Give it a shot.
Okay, so it's data. What if goal seek? I don't do this very often. Okay, so if we set this to 0 by changing, let's say a conversion rate. What conversion rate would we need to break even?
Yep.
Thanks.
Well, let's see here. Is it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's exactly 6. Well, 5.97. So if we increase the conversion rate 2%, add 100,000 subscribers, we can hire 5 people and not be in the negative anymore. That's pretty impressive.
Keep one thing in mind, that 6% is based off of the 600,000, not off of the 500,000.
Right.
So we're technically increasing our conversion rate a little bit more than 6%.
That's true.
Off of our current customer base.
Yep. Okay, so why don't I just send this over to you, Connor?
That sounds good.
Okay, just a sec. I don't know if I have your email.
You do.
Hang on, yeah, I do.
Do OLS.
Just a sec here. I gotta attach this thing.
There it is. That's me.
All right. I could probably stop sharing my screen, right?
All right, let's go forward. All right, so I'm pretty sure that we've already touched on some of this stuff, but I'll just kind of read through this. It says, why does Cloudflare management want to get big fast? What benefits does Cloudflare receive from scale? Does Cloudflare have economics of scale? Does Cloudflare have network effects? Does Cloudflare have high switching costs? What are the reasons might Cloudflare management have for wanting to get big fast? What reasons might you suggest not growing so fast?
Everything we
Well,
talked about the whole semester.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, they got to change their culture. They've got to make it so their operations match a culture of scaling, because like right now they got some serious issues. They're gonna hemorrhage people if they don't listen to their people, and so they need to.
These are smart people that are going to go write their own program and take the market.
Exactly right. So they need, what they need to do is they need to fix their operations. They need an organizational chart. They need clear responsibilities. They need team leads. All those things that the management didn't want, they have to put in. They got to do it.
Well, see, the thing is, at least what I got from the case is, it wasn't necessarily that management didn't want it. It's just the fact that they wanted it to come organically, and they wanted the engineers to like kind of have the freedom, but eventually they were going to get to a point where they would have the structure. They just wanted it to come from the bottom and not from the top up. And
it's like Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, well, it doesn't work. See, but the thing is, it doesn't work that way. True management always has to be from the top down. So the change, the change in thought has to come from the management. The upper management has to be like, we have to stop saying no to these people. We have to get an organizational chart. We have to get training for and clear, responsible, lines of accountability. So people are not spending as much time guessing, because that's what's going on, right? I mean,
Yeah. So one of the things that killed me, I was so just like, ugh. On page 7, we've hired employees with an expectation that they'd supervise someone, and it turned out exactly the other way. A classic problem in scaling startup is Fred, who is wonderful in his function early on, struggling now because the function's 4 times bigger. If Fred is, say, VP of engineering, and we now need to hire a new VP of engineering over him, it'll cause problems. You don't hire somebody over Fred. You hire somebody to take on some of the stuff that Fred's doing and have Fred supervise them.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
they're going at it completely backwards, and
it is.
Fred really upset, and Fred's gonna leave.
Yeah, that's right. And so my recommendation there, it asked, one of the questions in the case prep was what are you recommending? One of my recommendations there was to get an organizational person, like an HR expert or someone who can come in and say, okay, this is a mess and this is what you guys need to do. But it has to be like a high level. It's like someone who the managers, like the existing owners, would be like, hey, you're a big gun. You're going to come from some place where you've done this before. You know what to do. You see it, you fix it, and we trust you, and you have the power and authority to do what you need. Tell us what we need to do. And they need to do that.
Yeah, the problem is they won't listen to somebody like that because...
Well, if they don't, they're going to have huge problems.
Oh, I completely agree. I completely agree. That's the right way to go. Excuse me. They're just not going to do it because that's not the culture that they think they want.
Well, no, but they have to change their culture. Like, if the culture doesn't change from the top down, they're going to have problems. So I don't think, like this in my case, or in my opinion, would be an interesting case for like looking at Glassdoor. Have you guys ever done that before? It would be interesting, in my opinion, to go to Glassdoor and look at what ex-employees are saying about what it was like to work at that company, because then you can see whether or not they fix it. One of the things I like about Glassdoor is when you left, like when you're no longer there, there's this section called advice to management. And it's really actually, I've done that before. I've looked at like companies that either were like soliciting me on LinkedIn or something like that. And I'm like, I want to see what people said about that company. You go there and you look at the advice to management and you're like, I'm never going to work there if they have the same managers, because that someone would have to put that as an advice to manager after they left is terrible.
Basically, everything you just said answers one of the questions, so I'm just kind of going.
Okay. Like, I'm glad Cloudflare is still around. I thought it's cool that I signed up and stuff. They had to have like fixed this problem, I think, if they're still around in 2018. I just am kind of curious to know like what they did.
They need to fix their name.
Cloudflare, too many
It's really hard to say. Like, it's, all of us have messed up trying to say it. It's like Cloud Fairy or Cloud Fair. Just saying.
Well, they do on their website list all their employees and have like a picture and their first name and then their job title.
Yeah, we do that on our website too.
Mm-hmm. And they actually have quite a few employees now. And they have like recruiters and HR and...
Good. I'm glad they got an HR
managers.
Because, boy, they needed it.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any questions right here, number 5, that we haven't gone over?
Oh, look, economies of scale. Network effects. Yes, it does, right? I mean, the plan works. The freemium is cool. It can work really well.
And we've seen that in more than just this case study.
Yeah. Yeah, Dropbox.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Dropbox.
I know we've seen this.
Some point in the past.
Read so many case studies in the last 6 years.
I think Spotify is premium as well. That goes really well.
Yeah.
Anyways. All right, so Discuss each of the recent resignations. For each one, list the reasons why they left. Then ask what would you have to change for that person to have stayed.
Everything.
Well, can you imagine? I mean, like, it's cool because the Glassdoor thing I was telling you about, it's cool because this case study has that. You don't have to go look on Glassdoor. They were like, this is why I quit. This is why I left. And so essentially, all you have to do is, in my opinion, say, when this person said, I need this, or this is what the company needs, don't shut them down next time. Listen to them. Do what they say so you're keeping your people happy. Like, if they just did that one thing, right? If they said, oh, you have a really good point, and I can see that we're bumping up against this ceiling. You have a great point, and we're going to fix it. And they wouldn't just make a false promise, but they would actually, like, fix it. That's what they needed to do.
See, I understand that, but I think, like, you can't do it exactly that way, obviously, because it's like there's the one guy that he left mostly just because he had a family, he couldn't live in downtown San Francisco, and the commute was rough.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because they had 5 o'clock meetings on Fridays.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Right.
I mean, and he wasn't adding, he didn't see his value added for all the work that he was doing. He was taken away from his family, and he didn't see results in his work. Why was he working so hard and being away from his family when it wasn't going anywhere?
Right.
So I think it was a lot more than...
The culture of Cloudflare at that point in time was such that it's family anti-family friendly. It's like you have to be willing to put in long hours, love your job, or you are not a person. You can't have kids and you can't have a life. And how sustainable is that? Burnout was a huge cause for most of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you keep piling work because they're really good at multiple things on top of an employee, that burns them out and causes them to leave too, because that was the one that went and traveled in Europe or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's like, I've been in that position, and it was like the best thing I ever did was leaving, because why? When I'm an HR payroll person, all of a sudden I'm doing all the financial statements for like 6 properties because other people can't do it. They're not good enough, so I have to take on more work.
Like, what kind of sense does that make?
Yeah, because they're a jack of all trades. So you pile it on them and you burn them out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you don't give them what you promised them, which is a management position, which is why the last guy quit, right?
Yeah.
They just kind of brushed over that.
Yeah.
He thought he was going to be bigger and better, which a lot of people think, well, he doesn't need to be bigger and better. I don't think it was that. I think he was looking for personal, professional growth, and he didn't get it.
Yeah. And then they want to complain that he wasn't meeting his deadlines, kind of thing.
Yeah. You're both spot on, because what they had was a problem, in my opinion, where they were just taking way too much and putting it on people and expecting it all to get done. But I don't know. I think there was a bigger problem, and it's that they weren't valuing their people's input. Like, if they hire this big gun and he's got the chops to do an awesome job, but you're not letting him do that, it's like tying both of his hands behind his back, and it's just a matter of time until he does quit, like he did, right? And it was it should have been a huge wake-up call to the upper management that one awesome guy that was just an opportunity hire, not necessarily this guy was like we had this need. It was like, no, this guy, we want him on our team. Like, Jim Collins, good to great, right? The first 2, then where? You get the right people, but they screwed it up, right? Yeah. And so they got to fix that.
Mm-hmm. They got to fix the culture and the hierarchy before they are going to be able to keep anybody.
Yeah, it's like their anti-org chart, but, I mean, if you're going to scale, you got to have one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
True. So what is the reason that people work for Cloudflare? Like, what keeps them motivated? Did they join the company so they could be told what to do, have the process and structure, or to change the internet?
It was the last.
The internet.
Yeah.
Good answer to the question. All right. So group decision time. Should Cloudflare implement more process and structure, hire a VP of HR, start using titles, slow down growth, discuss what will happen to the company under your recommendations, what will happen to the culture and motivation of the current employees, what will happen to the cost structure and therefore profitability of the company.
Yeah, I think we already talked about that last question, but it's yes and yes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does everyone agree with that, or?
Any no's there?
Nope.
No to the no.
No to the no. Yep.
No to the no.
Yeah.
No to the no. Well, there you go. All right. Well, is there anything else you have to talk about with Cloudflare? I feel like we've kind of gotten it out.
It slowed down my website. For real.
But it's supposed to be faster.
I know. I think I'm actually going to remove it.
Bummer for them.
All right. They don't get my freemium.
Maybe that's just the incentive to get you to pay.
Yeah. There you go.
It was fast. It was fast enough as it was. It's like it loads like 2 seconds slower now. I'm not okay with that.
All right. So now moving to Rentjuice. Here we get a vote. Vote individually. Should David Vivero raise money now? If yes, what should he do with the money? If no, I guess let's vote first. Yes or no? Should he raise money now?
Yes.
I thought yes.
Anyone else?
I
I
need to
thought
look
yes.
back and see what I said. I can't remember.
I said yes because he has an opportunity if he pours it into marketing and sales to get a huge market share if he does it right.
Mm-hmm.
It has to take so much time. It will take so much of his time to do it later. And because they just talk about how raising funds just takes so much time. And
Courtney, Courtney, you were mentioning something about property management a little bit ago. So is this arena, when you read this case study, is this like something in your wheelhouse?
I know Yardi. They mentioned Yardi in the case study, and I know that
So
software pretty well.
You've used Yardi software. Yeah, I was checking out their website. It looks like it's pretty primo stuff.
Yeah, but like I'd never heard of Rentjuice.
Well, they got acquired by Zillow.
Yeah, I saw that. Because we never used a thing like that because it was where I came from was affordable housing. So it was HUD and RD, rural development. So there wasn't a need for something like that. And where I'm at now, we've got commercial properties. And we do have, I can't think of the right word. We have housing too, but it's more student housing stuff. So there's not a need for
Okay.
or
Just
something
wondering.
like Rentjuice. But like if we had like a few condos, like we do have a few condos, but if we had like a different way of going about marketing, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
that.
and that's kind of what they said too. They eventually said the people who we're now interested in, like our ideal target customer, are those that are investing a lot of money into advertising because they have tons of properties.
Yeah. And like where we have a lot of property, we have a lot of units. I'm not gonna say a lot of properties. We have a lot of units for our housing, but it's not. It's all student driven. You know, I'm in Pullman, so it's WSU stuff. So it's it has its own. It's not like being in the middle of Boston and having a whole bunch of units to fill, or something like that.
Okay. Cool. I was just wondering. I'm sure this was a lot more applicable to what you do. It made a lot more sense. It's not that I wasn't interested in. I was just like, Cloudflare is a little bit more my thing.
Yeah, technology. I saw the words just getting lost, but then you got to the HR part, and I was like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Well, that was their big problem at the time.
Yeah.
All right. So it said to read this paragraph. It says, I tried to raise funds from Sand Hill Road venture capitalists. In October and November, they liked our team and our idea, but they told me to come back when I had proved the model in more than one city, demonstrated lifetime customer value well in excess of average customer acquisition cost, and had reliable data. Sorry about that. I don't know if you guys saw that. On my sales cycle and conversion funnel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That reminds me. So I think that's that same case study. Someone was like, BC's the Holy Grail is demonstrating viability in those models, and if you have that, they'll fund you any day. So it did surprise me that someone said, hey, I want to invest $5 million because there you read what you read, and then someone came back and was like, hey, I want to invest money in you, when they may not have properly vetted that, because in my view, they weren't quite there yet. Like, the one thing that I also thought that if they got $5 million that they should do with it is finish fine-tuning that new offering called Real Time, because then they would have an overall more appealing, like, to everybody kind of a thing.
Because like right now, they're only really appealing to brokers. They're not appealing to necessarily tenants or landlords.
They're almost ready to launch it. If they get money now, they really need to do some sort of campaign to let their current customers and potential customers know, hey, just so you know, we've got this product rolling out in X number of weeks. We're pretty excited about it. Salesforce does that all the time. I'm always getting emails, hey, we're going to update this here pretty soon. And do some sort of campaign to let people know that it's coming, so they don't go to that competitor that's likely another Harvard business grad.
Sorry, I'm just typing away. Let's see here. Did we cover everything on question 1? Sorry, I kind of zoned out for a little bit listening.
So that paragraph 7, I tried to raise funds, that you already read it. So I bet you we all pretty much, because that fourth bullet point about why investors care, like, it's like we all probably have essentially the same answer when we did our case prep. But it's I used that one thing that was from the case study that just said, whoever it was that said the Holy Grail is blah blah blah. Like, I couldn't have said it. I couldn't have said it any better than that.
Yeah. All right. So what's the customer lifetime value of a Rentjuice customer? And then we've got the annual churn, monthly revenue, gross margin, and the customer acquisition cost.
So we have to probably spreadsheet this, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't do that, but when it was asking in the case prep notes, it was talking about, like, how do you calculate that? And when I looked at calculating it, there's like 2 ways of doing it. And I saw one is like current, right? Looking at what they have paid. And then there's one that's like future. Like, if you want to estimate in the future what their total lifetime is going to be. So the future is harder, I think, but current is easier to do. And it looks like we have data there that we might just be able to plug into a more simple formula for current in order to get what we're looking for, perhaps.
Which is really just the monthly revenue per customer times the gross margin, right?
I think so.
I found the same ones. The historic CLV was the transaction, the sum of all their transactions times the average gross margin.
Yes. So maybe we want to, I mean, it didn't say we have to turn in something like a spreadsheet, but maybe we should, or at least like do the calcs and get a screenshot of the calcs for the sheet that Connor will turn in.
So the question that we have to turn in is actually number 2 exactly. And so we do have to turn it in.
Okay, so if we just do, so if we do the predictive one, average monthly transactions, that's 440, times the average order value. The average order value is 440, isn't it? Because it's a monthly fee.
Right. And then don't you multiply that by 12?
Times the average gross margin. No, because they gave us the average customer lifespan. The average customer lifespan, well, they didn't give us that, but they did give us the 2,300 divided by 440 would give us the average lifespan.
The acquisition cost?
Oh, maybe not.
CLV of a Rentjuice customer.
Yeah, just do the 440 times 75%. See what that comes up with. 440 times 12 to Brittany's point. 440 times 12 times 0.75.
So 3,960. And then divide by the churn rate, right?
Divide or multiply by the churn rate?
I thought it was divide by the
Yeah,
churn
I
rate.
think you'll want to divide. It'll be a bigger number.
Yeah.
So we're looking at around 10,421.
And then from there, would you subtract the 2,300?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So 8,121.
This is why we have finance people in our
I
group.
thought it was 1 minus the churn rate.
Which model are you using? Is everyone using the same reference model to calculate this?
They're not.
Probably. No.
They're not using the ones that we looked up, but what they're doing actually makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me too.
We just don't know if it's right.
I'll just let you guys do the math on this one.
Yeah. Ian and I talk all the time. You guys can take this one.
Okay. So if we do the 1 minus 3.8, then after everything, it comes out to be $4,087.
That's not very much.
That's after you subtract the customer acquisition cost?
Yeah.
Should be more than that.
Well, that's going
That's
off of what
one.
Courtney said about doing the 1 minus 3.8 or 0.38. I'm sorry, the 38%. But if we did that before, or if we did it just with the 38%, then it's 8,121.
Lifetime value.
Share my whole screen. I'm not very organized when I use Excel.
I used to work with a CFO who didn't know how to use Excel.
Oh, no way.
How can you be a CFO without knowing what Excel is?
Yeah, that's
It
bad.
old school. It made me crazy.
Oh, man. So what do you guys think? Is that number reasonable or what?
I think it is that.
The 8,000 or the 10?
Yeah, the 8,000.
So I just think it would be a good thing to put the rationale as to the final number that you arrived at. I mean, if you want, you can screenshot it or whatever, just for the presentation, so Brother Nebuchadnezzar can give us brownie points.
Yeah, no, I'll type it up. I'm not gonna screenshot what I have right here because that's just. But I'll type it up. Okay. All right. So we're gonna go with that. So I'll worry about that later. So how well is the sale funnel at Rentjuice working? What can you think of to improve it? How can you reduce customer acquisition cost?
I don't think it's working awesome. Like, it's better now that they got like some good people, but they still got to work on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where they talked about their actual funnel. There was a formula that, or like 100 people in, 2 people out.
Yeah, that was the funnel. Yep.
But there was some stuff in between that I think that they could have. Oh, there it is. Of 100 qualified leads contacted via email or phone, someone at 45 of the firms took a call, resulting in 21 decision makers agreeing to speak with us, of whom 9 agreed to view a web demo and 2 subscribed to Rentjuice.
Yeah.
How well is it working? What can you think of to improve it? And how can you reduce your customer acquisition?
To me, it just, I mean, in the world of sales, I believe it's that crappy. Like your conversion rate is always going to suck. Like, you know, you just, it's like a numbers game where you just got to get out there and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
tons of contacts, and then you'll get a certain amount that go through the funnel.
And
But
sales via email or phone versus in person, especially with real estate people. I mean, Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong. I used to work for a real estate guy. Well, he was a friend, and so I was helping him clean up his office when I was between jobs. But it's a personal business. Like you got to be there. They want to see your face. They don't want some random person. I mean, from the agent's point of view, they don't want some random person selling them a house or renting them something. You know, they want somebody that they can put a face with.
so like
An
relationship.
email or phone, yeah, a relationship thing.
Mhm.
Well, I'm more on the developer side, so we really don't like face-to-face as much.
You
We don't have
avoid the
time.
face-to-face as much as possible.
Right, unless we know you. And so, because everyone comes at the developers with 50 million ideas. So, that's a tough one. On our sister company side, probably face-to-face is better. Depends on your generation, though, too.
True.
You know, it's like I can see how our person who's over our property management company, face-to-face is very important.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, I can look at some of the people who would be good to replace her, and they want to get to know you over the phone or email first and fit you in when they have time.
So let me ask you this question. The people who, like the property managers and the landlords, the people who are the faces, right?
Uh-huh.
Do they want somebody to sell to them face to face, or do they want somebody that will just send them an email or call them on the phone?
I got one landlord, they don't have time for face-to-face.
Yeah,
I mean, ultimately, you just don't, because they're developers.
right.
Ultimately, the people that are owning these buildings are developers. So they're on to their next bigger, badder project to develop more property.
Well, where's the fine medium, though? Because in any
The bridge is
successful sale,
somewhere.
you have to be able to have a good feeling, a good interaction, a good relationship, something that sticks in order to get all the way through the funnel.
Mhm.
Right. I don't know what the good happy medium is. I don't know.
Maybe it's a 50-50. Like, you need to make this many phone calls and send this many emails a week, and you also need to visit this many people in person.
Probably.
And that means, like, work from your home office. Don't care as long as your emails are going out and your phone calls are logged, which you can do in Salesforce, which is your CRM system anyway, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So log your calls, log your emails, and go visit these people face to face and drop off these business cards, and
Just a little bit of everything. Yeah, that's cool, because if you do a little bit of all that and then you're keeping track of your numbers, like you said, that's a big deal. You'll be able to know what's more effective.
Right.
Well, and I think you just have to keep putting those thoughts in the people's heads about what your product can do for them. And so whether it's email, calling, following up with an email, and continue to follow up with them is the other thing. Not necessarily every single day, but every few days, like, make sure that it's fresh in their mind that, hey, this is our service. This is what we do.
And there are programs that will do that for you. HubSpot will do that for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
mean,
use HubSpot and write those emails. And I've also found that those emails more people open those emails when they're educational.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be sold, but two people want to learn.
Yep.
Right. And so I think just continuing to follow up, you can't just do it one time. It's like, you didn't get your foot in the door yet. Okay, give it a week and let's try again.
Mm-hmm.
Or give it, like some of the people that try to get a hold of the owner of my company, it's like, okay, you gotta give it a couple weeks and then try again.
At our company, we call that donut diplomacy.
That's what it is, though.
Yeah, you go in the first time.
Yeah.
You go in the first time, and when that doesn't work, a week later, you go in and you take donuts.
That's right.
That's funny.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking we bought a copy machine because this guy came in their office. We realized we needed something better than bigger than a tabletop copy machine.
That's awesome. So how can you reduce CAC? I believe automation. Once you find the right formula, if you can figure out how to make a lot of those things that you would be doing repetitively over and over again happen on an automatic basis, like HubSpot's a way to do it. That's a way that you can reduce CAC because you're reducing your time. You're freeing it up to be able to do more best and greatest use of other things with what you're supposed to be doing as a salesperson.
And going back to what we talked about with the other one, increase your conversion rate. And to increase your conversion rate, you're going to have to try different tactics than email and phone. So maybe you'll get 4 people instead of 2. You increase it by 2%, and we've seen what that effect can have.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing is, I mean, like going on the bottleneck theory is just finding the things that are like costing the most and getting the least amount of profit out of it, and finding those and pinpointing them and finding ways to either improve them or expand the bottleneck or however that is.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Sorry, guys. I'm going to have to go here pretty soon. But it looks like we have one question left.
We have one question left. We'll get through it quick.
Okay.
All right. How should Vivero respond to the new competition? List all of the options you can think of. List pros and cons for each option. As a group, you must decide on a course of action.
So, Abby, you mentioned one already. It's that thing that Salesforce does. Hey, in this much time, we're going to release this thing. You need to know about it because so if someone comes knocking, you've got us already. I mean, you're not going to say that,
Right.
but that's implied.
Mm-hmm. You can say that. I mean, you might not want to. It depends on how you say it. Again,
Right.
The educational thing.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know that da-da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da-da-da? And by the way, we're coming up with this software that's going to speak more to you as a landlord than as or whatever. I get the 2 different mixed up, but
yeah, real time.
Just a campaign the real time thing.
I got something for you, Abby, to build on that. Throw in the educational aspect of this email that you're drafting and going to send to these people that is a potential future upsell. Tell them a little bit about, educate them a little bit on switching costs, because switching costs can suck, and you might think, oh, it's going to be so much better, but then you realize it's this, you got to train everybody. It's this terrible new thing. But they already know Rentjuice, and Rentjuice real time is, but just the whole spiel.
And the other thing that I was thinking of, so Rentjuice isn't with the landlords right now, but the landlords probably know who they are because they're with the other people that the landlord, I can't remember, I'm sorry,
Brokers.
But the brokers, they're with the brokers. So they've heard of Rentjuice before, and they keep thinking, man, we really need something like that. Well, if Rentjuice doesn't come out and say, hey, landlords, guess what? We got something coming your way. Then these other guys that come, they're going to be like, oh, finally, somebody gave us something that we need that's just like Rentjuice, but for us. And they have no idea that Rentjuice is even coming and that Rentjuice is going to be able to speak to their brokers better than their competitor will. They just lost out. They just need, it's a simple marketing campaign. Hey, guess what? Rentjuice is coming out with this. And did you know that the changing cost, and we're planning on having integration with your brokers and just an educational email about the product even.
Well, to that as well, say that they say yes to the $5 million. They've got some capital to be able to move on this and cause it to happen quickly. I really do think they should say yes to that infusion on a round A or whatever, Series A. And it was weird. Did you guys notice in the prep questions? Because I thought the prep questions for this were kind of terrible. But the last one was what happened or something. I'm
what happened? Yeah.
What a dumb question. So what I think they meant by that, I just extrapolated that. So I looked on the internet as to what happened in reality. What happened? Well, they did. So it was 6-point-something million that they did. They did seed funding, and that Rentjuice did go through with it. It was more than 5 million. It was 6-point-something million actually. So maybe it was a different round, but they did go through with it. And then after a while, they got acquired by Zillow.
But Dave Vivero. He went on as their VP of rent operations or rent sales or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So he went with the sale.
Yeah, which is cool because he probably just saw it as a way to reach more people with him still being kind of like his baby there.
Yeah, he can still grow, still watch his baby grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Is there anything else anyone else wants to add?
Just a question. How many more weeks of these meetings do we have? Like, it's not that I don't like you guys or anything, but like, when is the semester over? Like,
I think we have 2 more weeks, 2 more times that we actually meet.
2 more?
I think
Yeah.
so. Let me.
This one and this.
I have written down Ian on 7/13,
Okay.
and then it would be me the week after that.
All
But I
Cool.
think the week after that might be finals. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's one or
Oh.
two.
So
One or
we only have 1 more week then of a team meeting, is that right?
One or two.
1 or 2, okay. Well, isn't that lovely?
Yes. Yes.
Oh man. Okay, so I decided that I work full time and I'm doing 2 classes this semester, and I was gonna finish next semester, do 2 classes, but it's too much. I have to do 2 more semesters instead of 1.
Bummer. I'm
Lame.
done in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
jealous.
me too.
Oh, you're so lucky.
I'm just
I got
spending
one
too
more
much time.
semester.
But
Yeah,
I'm
I
having
have
twins in
one
November
semester.
and turning 40 in December, so I'm not that lucky.
One milestone after another.
Good grief.
All right, so I'm gonna end the recording here, and I'll finish typing all this up and turn it all in.
Thanks, Connor.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. There was kind of a lot to write up this go around, it seems like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
And it still took us an hour and a half.
Yeah.
We just like talking to each other.